Right, well, this is Harry's car, the Clapper, and we are ripping into this thing. It didn't last too long before the bonnet was up and some serious things were starting to go down.
At Glasshouse, we had some coolant pushing out of the overflow. We didn't know if it was the radiator, the head gasket, or it could have been a million things. But I've taken the car home, changed the radiator, it still persisted. And now me and Tom are just going to pull the head off. We spent about 2 hours on it the other week, just removing all the other stuff. So the head's ready to come off almost. So in today's episode, we're going to take the head off and look at the gasket, and we'll show you how to do it along the way.
Proudly supported by Superior Engineering, iTech World, and in part by...
If you missed the last episode, go check it out. This is a budget build, so we are going to try and keep this budget and just do the bare minimum on this thing. So we'll cut to the clip of what it was doing in the last episode so you can check it out. Harry just told me he hasn't checked the radiator. It's pretty low, so I'm going to fill it up. Dude, there's oil in that. You guys can hear that. Sounds like it's boiling, but it's not actually hot. Either that cap's bad, the radiator's bad, or the head gasket is bad. Welcome back to this episode. Now we do need to take the head off to inspect what is actually going on with this motor, but we do suspect that it is just a gasket. I'd be very surprised if the head is damaged or the block is damaged, but we need to go in and have a look, and we need to clean everything up and double check and triple check everything so we can get the right parts and get this thing back on the road. So during the week we pulled off all these parts, the intercooler, everything else that is needing to come off. We're trying to keep our bolts nice and organized, and we're just about ready to take the rocker assembly off. So you can see I've got the tappet cover off. Rocker assembly off, head bolts out. You can see we've got all the injector lines disconnected. We have got new injectors on order as well, so once the head's off, we'll pull the injectors off. We will clean up all the gasket areas and do an inspection and double check that this thing is even worth putting the time and money into.
If we put the whole car back together and it's still doing it, we'll forge a 300 horsepower swap it.
Well, I'm going to put the motor at top dead center so that we know where we're at for reassembly. It's not a necessary step, but if the motor's at top dead center, at least we know when we go to reassemble everything, we can do all the valve lashes, and it's just good to have it at top dead center. 55mm socket on the crank's a huge crank nut. I think it's cylinder 1 and cylinder 6 that have to be rocking. And then we can pull this rocker shaft off, pull the push rods out, then we can start ripping into the head bolts. Got the motor at top dead center, so now I'm going to pull the rocker shaft off. These push rods run on the cam gear, and it's what times the valve. So the rocker arm pushes down on the valve as the push rod pushes up. It's all one motion, so these all have to come out to pull the head off. We've got our head bolts exposed. You can see there's some on the outside of these motors and then a set on the inside. What I'm going to do is look up the sequence to how to tighten the head down, and I'm going to remove them in the opposite sequence just to keep everything as straight as possible as it's coming off. TD42. God, I just pulled it open to the perfect page. What a fluke. So this has everything we want to know in this book. These things are gold. It's got the numbers of how the head bolts need to be installed. I'm just going to follow that in reverse and take it off. Keep this on the bench, just in case. I have no idea what I'm doing. It's going in reverse from 26. That's tight. So you always crack these by hand first. They're pretty tight, as you can imagine. I don't want to be putting a rattle gun on these until they're completely backed off. Definitely use a rattle gun to put them back in. That's what you got to do. Especially on a TD, these things get hot, so it's just like 72 ugga-duggers on every head bolt. What was it up to? 21.
we're up to the stage where we've taken the head bolts out and we're ready to lift the head off the block. We've ran a nice seat belt, nice and safe. I'm gonna go grab the engine crane and we'll get this puppy out of here.
Alright, that's the head.
Just kick those wheels off.
Head's
Really?
cracked on the pre-comps. Look, crack. Crack. Look, massive crack through it. Hugely cracked. Just letting you guys know that we have now partnered with iTech World. Now, what these guys do is 12-volt systems, and they do it freaking good. We all know 12-volt systems can get complicated, but I find the kits at iTech World are super simple and they're ready to go. I got some stuff coming for these projects that I'm very excited about, and I'm super happy to have these guys on board. If you're thinking about doing a 12-volt setup, or you're thinking about just refreshing your batteries, definitely check these guys out. I'll have a link in the description and a 5% off discount code for you at the checkout. Cheers to iTech World for supporting us. Now let's get back to the episode. Right, so I got the head off, and the head gasket looks like it's got a bit of weird stuff on it. I don't know if that was silicone or whatnot, but the head gasket itself isn't the problem. I just seen the problem is up under here. We have cracks all through the head. So that means that we need to get at least a new cylinder head, new gasket, everything that's on order previous, but a new cylinder head as well, unless you can find a second-hand one. But cylinder heads on diesels are sort of a consumable part, especially at 480,000 Ks. Like, this sort of stuff's quite normal, but the water that's been coming in there, that's not good, because we've got to check the tops of the pistons, we've got to check the liners, make sure the block's good, because if the block's no good, and the head's no good, then the car's no good. Lucky you got it for a good price. So yeah, head's cooked, let's check the block. It's like they put a sealant on the head gasket as well, which is kind of weird. I didn't think you did that on a metal gasket. It's definitely all cracked right where the head's cracked. So she's toast. Now the block though, we're gonna have to clean out all these pistons. This one here, look at all the water. You guys can see that, there's all rusty water in there. Same with this one here, look.
So we're gonna clean up the block and see if there's any damage on that.
They're all cracked. Right, so I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see on the camera, but right on those valve reliefs, you can see that there's cracks on the edges that are going right through to where the ring lands are, especially on this piston here. Go towards more the center. So this piston actually has had something inside it as well, which is what those marks there are. And it's not very healthy. It's not something that you'd want to slap a head back on and just see if it goes okay. This last piston here actually has a crack right through the piston. That there is a crack right heading out towards that ringland. Sorry, I'm trying to keep the camera focused, but there's definitely a crack right on that edge too. So this motor is no bueno. Yeah, this motor is pretty much done.
To rebuild this engine, you're probably looking at 10 to 15 grand, or go out and buy a silver top TD for maybe 6-7 grand. So probably just go have a look at a motor salvo and go from there.
See here, the topinator's gone. If you don't have the topinator, the coolant don't cool. And the coolant ain't gonna cool the topinator.
Silver top TD, put it in, drive it, enjoy the car. 5 grand, 6 grand, whatever it's going to cost.
Maybe rebuild this, maybe put it in something else one day.
So it's probably not worth doing anything to that motor at this point, because it is going to cost about 10, 15 just to get that motor back up to spec. You need new head, gaskets, pistons, rings. Motor pretty well has to come out. Machine shop costs, expensive.
Add up very quickly.
That's the quickest way to get you back on the road, is put another TD in it. Yeah. Rebuilding this is not only going to cost a lot, it's going to take a lot of time. It's not what this build's about. This build's about quick, fast, fun, cheap. Slap it together. I mean, we could just slap a gasket on it and see how it goes, but it's not going to last very long. Those pistons, yeah. So bit of a unfortunate series of events for old Harrison here. Goes to show you guys, if you're buying it, use full drive, check the radiator, run the car with the radiator cap off, make sure there's no gases coming out of it, check the blow by, drive away, think about it. Just want to show you something, Harry, before you go. Let's move this clutch out the way. Things tucked away for a rainy day. So in this box here from Diesel Conversions Australia, a full TD42 to 4JJ1 swap kit. Wiring loom, engine mount brackets, engine mount. Billet cut adapter plate, 4JJ1. How nice is that?
Smooth.
We could put this in Harry's car.
It's going to be about the same price to 4J swap it than the TD42. I don't know which way to go, honestly. We could do it and have a sick 4J with a fully sick Limmy cut bar, or we just slap a TD that's probably got 500,000 Ks that's going to do the same thing. Or we rebuild the whole motor. Doesn't have to make 200 horsepower, I can make 300.
Next day from when we pulled the motor, I just headed down to Yatla and met a guy called Rob. He had a TD42 silver top for sale, and this silver top is mint. The guy I brought the motor off, he just had it as a spare motor sitting at the back ready to go in his ute, but he sold his ute, so it's going in the clapper. He pulled it out of a ute and said it had about 300,000 Ks on it, which I can agree with that. And when you guys see it, you probably agree too, because this TD42 in mint.
Right, Harry just got back with his brand new motor, so we need to get it out of this trailer. And we are about to test the tensile strength of a seatbelt, because that's all we have. Should probably have some chains for this. It's obviously got the gearbox and transfer case attached, so this thing is going to be friggin' heavy. A little bit sketchy. Right, silver top TD42 ready to go in the clapper. Now, this thing is in very, very good condition. It's my first time sort of seeing it, but all the injector lines are nice and clean. You can see the pump's nice and clean. Tappet cover looks good. Just looks like it's been really well looked after, which is great. Harry got a really good deal on it, and it came with the gearbox and the transfer case, so be able to sell that and get some of the money back. But obviously, it's not as good as a factory turbo motor, but it is a silver top, which is better than the NA factory black top. So that's pretty much it for this episode, guys. We'll be back next week and hopefully get this motor in. It shouldn't honestly take too long to put this in. It's sort of just like for like, which is good. So it's going to stay here until next week, and we'll be at it. Hopefully get this in and get the car running and back on the road. I think this was the best option to go anyway. Sorry for a choppy episode. We're all over the place, but obviously we found some stuff that we didn't want to find. That's just how these cars go sometimes, but she'll be back better than ever. Silver topper.
See you on the next episode.
Silver popper.